Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I thought that I was going to be like hyper late today, but I guess I'm only 4 minutes late today. Not that it matters, because today is probably going to be pretty tight. Actually, I take that back, because we do have some Fed speakers today, don't we? What time are they, though? Are they during our session? Fed, so Waller speaks 6:50. Okay, that's already happened, I think. Williams at the top of the hour. That's probably a big deal. Bostic speaks 12:30 Eastern time. So well after we're trading. And there's a 20-year bond auction today. So I think that actually could be enough to give us some flows for a trade today. We'll have to see. But first, let's kind of go and take a look at the charts and see where we're at, because yesterday was a doozy. Right, see here. Do I have my oil is carried over? Yes, it is. I think that it just didn't save. So I thought we did that yesterday. Okay, so here's the treasuries. So immediately after the non-farms news, there was a big jump. And then through most of our session, at least, they were a little bit lower. But after we left, it does look like they eventually recovered that and ended the day a good amount higher. But then again, in the overnight, those flows have mostly been erased. I would say that over the past month or so, you know, there has been a lot of selling in the Treasury that doesn't seem to be connected to any one particular piece of news. So I think that funds and, you know, a bunch of other factors involved do have the Treasuries still kind of in a sell mode. And I think that may be what's going on here. But again, we have some Fed speakers today, and we have a CPI tomorrow. So maybe that turns around eventually. Here we got the S&P 500. Well, you know, the markets initially liked it, but ultimately, I kind of looks like S&P had a down close day. They are recovering a lot of that in the overnight. The big one, though, is oil. So yesterday, the big news was oil dropping below 56 with a glut in oil supply. But then all of the like geopolitical things that were kind of starting to clear flared back up. We're getting more action with Argentina. We are getting more pessimistic about a deal in Ukraine, sanctions on Russians, etc., etc. And so oil is popping right back up there. Gold and silver seem to be just kind of doing their thing. Oh, I take that back. Silver. Man, silver just doesn't stop. But you know what? Like, silver was suppressed for such a long time. So some of this in silver is them catching up to gold. But man, it just, what a chart. What a chart over in silver. And copper. Well, they're up, but they're not, you know, they're in the middle of their range there. And the Japanese yen, after several days of positive action, interestingly enough, like right as they're about to do their rate hike, Japanese yen falling this morning. In the Bitcoin, kind of just sitting there still at the bottom of its range. So, come back over here. J6 and EU nuclear option and possible Ukraine peace might be affecting the yen. Wait, what EU nuclear option are you talking about specifically? Because I can think of like two or three different things that they might that you might be referring to as the nuclear option for the EU. So the EU is unofficially talking about liquidating their U.S. What? I had not heard that one. Let's see here. EU. That honestly sounds to me like conspiracy theory Reddit kind of stuff. Do we have like a story from an outlet with speculation about that? Well, let's see. I got something from the Economic Times. Is Europe ready to pull the trigger? Officials whisper about dumping U.S. treasuries if U.S. Okay. European governments are quietly debating an extraordinary economic countermeasure as fears grow that U.S. President Donald Trump may strike a deal with Russia that sidelines Ukraine and threatens continental security, according to internal assessments shared within Europe. Officials are considering a drastic response, dumping vast holdings of U.S. government debt to destabilize the American economy if Washington abandons its commitments in Ukraine. Okay, so I tell you, like, right away, I think that probably there maybe is one guy that is talking about doing something like that. The chances of Europe actually following through on that are nil. There's no way. There's no way that they would do that. And like, can you think like how destabilizing that would be to the entire Western sphere if you just all of a sudden dumped all of the US treasuries? That would cause economic chaos in the United States, yes, but it would really, really hurt the EU. Like really, the EU would lose more in a situation like that than the US. I actually do think, like, if a country like the EU decided to dump their treasuries, it might not be the kind of like apocalyptic, all of the sudden chaos, everything kind of event that we think that it would be, because something like that would probably happen slowly over time. Like we've seen China dump a lot of their treasury holdings, right? And it's just kind of been a slow thing. But overall, that would spike interest rates and it would really hurt the economy. But like, yeah, see, Uzi's reading my mind. Could the EU actually hurt themselves anymore though? Like the EU economy has been lagging. They have made a lot of poor decisions economically. The US is really quite upset about it because they feel that it hurts their security, having one of their partners become so weak. And all you're going to do from this is just hurt the entire Western economy even more. So I think that, well, yes, maybe somebody talks about that. Them putting that out is probably more mind games than anything else. You know what I mean? So these ones are really hard for me to comment on because I know that there are mind games that go on there, but I also know that I don't get enough information to really game out what they're really trying to do or how any of that works, right? It's a way too 5D chess for me, you know? I'm pretty smart, but when you start to get into some of the foreign policy mind games, it's above me, you know? Isn't that the liberal way, though? Do enough damage so you can blame another You know what, man? It's so interesting to me to see some of your responses to this, just because there is an underlying political current to all of this. So it reminds me of a story I read. I can't remember where it was. It was they linked it and analyzed it a little bit on Hot Air yesterday. But basically, this guy went through and talked about it was kind of like a anecdotal kind of expose where they talked about 3 or 4 different individuals and their struggles with the job market and how they felt that DEI policies actively hurt them, essentially. So, like, there was one guy, he wanted to go into news, and, you know, he had, like, a basic news job, but he kept finding it very, very difficult to move up, to get, like, an actual real editor position, get something where, like, he felt financially secure enough to start a family and things like that. And every time that there was an opening, they'd go and they'd give it to somebody else. And he claims, at least, that, you know, they were all given to DEI candidates, and that he was, like, explicitly told in some instances that the company couldn't hire him because they already had too many white people. And it was like the boomers, they had the boomers that had been there for a while, and those were their white guys. And so all of the younger kids had to be minorities or women. And they go through and they show this in the news industry, they show this at universities, and they show this in Hollywood. Granted, it's anecdotal, but then they talk about all of the stats, like how these industries, the demographics of these industries over the last 10 years changed dramatically. And their overall point, conclusion, thesis, whatever, was that essentially an entire generation of white men were basically, like, completely abandoned. Like, yeah, maybe if you were, like, amazing, but you're just an ordinary guy, and in normal times that would be enough, is what they say. But in this instance, it wasn't enough. And so they keep waiting for their big break to happen, and it never does because there's no room for them. Right? And I feel like that all of these comments are all kind of coming from the same strain, right? It really is a very large portion of the economy. Like the thing that's kind of ironic about it is that even the people that have supposedly are being served by these kinds of policies feel left behind, you know? So there's just like this overall dissatisfaction with the way that things are going in the West. And you see it come out in like every issue, right? So like why are we saying these things about Europe? Because these are the kinds of policies that a lot of, especially us white men, think are harmful, and the EU went like all in on them, especially the like, we need to make energy expensive and get rid of any kind of, you know, and you know, they completely ditched nuclear, were like shutting down nuclear power plants, things like that. Like the EU just made a lot of really, really dumb decisions. And I personally see it as in line with the sorts of dumb decisions that the left has been making for the past 20 or 30 years overall. You know? So Apol's comment there especially, isn't that the liberal way, though? Do enough damage so you can blame another? Really, you know, I don't think that the true liberals, you know, like the non-woke left, if it exists anymore. I don't think that was their intention, but you can definitely see how that's how their policies went. And that is exactly what they did. Is like they've been in power for the last 30 years. Hasn't gone very well. People are not very happy with it. And what do? They just blame it on somebody. Oh, well, it's because of the conservatives. Who was in charge? You were in charge. Obamacare was the left's signature achievement. Look at that one now. But maybe it was always destined to fail, right? They wanted it to fail so that they could get their universal healthcare system, right? Yeah. Do enough damage, blame somebody else, try and usher in socialism. That's like what it feels like the left has been. So, from our perspective from day trading, sometimes I think it can be difficult for us when we're trying to analyze, especially these geopolitical events, what's going on, because we end up seeing everything through this lens of there's the generational decline in the West and stuff like that, you know? I don't know. Does seem like, you know, Trump at least has really gone after DEI and is just like really tearing it down. So we'll see things change. One of the issues is that I feel that there's a certain amount of complaining and dissatisfaction that you're going to see, even if things are going really, really well. So now, while I'm thinking about politics, I want to see if there was anything new on the Brown thing. I don't think that I really need to say anything about it because, well, there was a shooting at Brown. It appears to have been actually a targeted political assassination now. But there's like this whole situation. The shooter is still at large, apparently. So, and people on the internet think that they know who it is, but I don't think I'm going to comment on that, like, because I don't have to, right? Like, if they catch a guy, they catch a guy, and then we can comment about it. And if it's the guy that the right thinks that it is, then I'll be ready to be talking about what that really means and the problems with it. But we don't have to play into unconfirmed rumors, right? I saw an article about razor blades in bread loaves at Walmart. Less than 24 hours later, they caught the person. But 4 days later, and we can't catch a right? It is wild. But so here's my theory, at least. My theory is that that at this point, they do know who it is, but that they can't find the person and they don't want to tip him off that they're onto him. That's my guess. But straight up, like, the thing is we saw this with the Kirk shooting too, didn't we? Like, there was key information about the Kirk shooting that was withheld from the public, and that the public still doesn't know because they did such a good job of suppressing it. That's wild to me. Like the left still believes that the Kirk shooter was a groyper. They believe that with all their heart. It's absolutely nuts. That tells you what you need to know then. Well, I think we pretty much know. We've gotten enough reporting from, people, friends, like there's a lot of I can't really talk about this on the record things. Like it's going to come out eventually that shooter did say, a Muslim extremist phrase that's being kept from us. So we know that something's going on in there. But let's not just immediately jump, because I mean, like the thing is, if it really was what the right believes, that like the university 100% knows who the shooter was and everything and is like trying to protect him, that would be like such a crazy scandal. Oh my gosh, that would be such a crazy scandal. And that the Trump administration would be all over that stuff like flies on shit, right? So let's just let it play out. We talked about what we know, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on it. Oh, that's interesting, Uzi, that story that you're talking about the razor blades, the razor blades, is a sticky story on the Donald right now. Am I allowed to name it by name? Patriots.win. I think it's only on Reddit that you're not allowed to use the name. Well, anyways, I got a little bit sidetracked there. Gaston did bring up something interesting. I highly doubt that is affecting flows right now, but there does appear to be this larger thing that a lot of funds do seem to think that rates are going to go higher from here. That they think that like that's as much cutting as the Fed can do at the moment, and yada yada yada. Should take a note here where our kind of levels are. 70 and 18.5 above us. So I'm actually my mind is actually kind of elsewhere a little bit. I might be a little scatterbrained today because, well, first of all, the kids would not go to sleep last night. Ethan was like we got in bed kind of late, like 10:30ish, and I like to be in bed by like 9:30 and falling asleep at 10. But then Ethan would not go to sleep. So like when the iPad said, oh, it's time to go to sleep, I put it away, and for some reason he kept asking for it. It'd been like an hour. I'm trying to lay there, go to sleep, and he just got iPad. So I threw it out of the room. So I was like, no, it doesn't work. I'm throwing it out of the room. Forget about the iPad. And then he threw a real fit. And I don't think I actually fell asleep until like midnight. So first of all, I'm tired. But then I came across a TikTok where I think it was some sort of a fund manager was criticizing ICT stuff. And somebody asked him about order flow. And he was like, oh man, the video that he made like really made no sense at all. Because he was like saying it doesn't show up on the chart, and then but I'm like, what, isn't that a good thing? Like it really didn't like what kind of point was he trying to make? It didn't really make sense. But I think part of it was like it doesn't seem like English is his first language, so maybe he was just like expressing himself poorly and didn't really go into detail. But he was basically saying that like order flow was nonsense too. So I told them, well, there's lots of studies that show short-term, highly predictive signals using order flow data. And he said, nope, nope, not. Maybe if you use options. No. So he just doesn't know. Here's the thing about this like market microstructure and trading and order flow in general is that it's kind of been a neglected field. The practitioners and the academics have focused much more heavily on portfolio construction, options pricing, and alternative data. And the market microstructure field has kind of been neglected. That's why you've got guys like Jean-Philippe Bouchot and Capital Fund Management kind of talking about it, saying, actually, these things are relevant to even you guys managing portfolios because it explains why some of the effects that affect our portfolios happen, right? So, I said there's some studies on it. You said, nope, there's not any of them. So now I'm all excited and I'm thinking about which studies can we talk about tonight on TikTok to show that there is, obviously there's a little bit of a gap between what's in the research and you being able to trade on it. I'll tell you for one thing that the research does not really back up any of the things that you see people pushing footprint charts or volume profile charts say. And there's a gap between the research and you putting into practice. I think I already said that part, right? But there are definitely some studies out there we can talk about. So I think I'll make a TikTok tonight, like listing 3 or 4. I'm trying to find that one by Jean-Philippe that was where they were using a large language model. That one's the most interesting to me. I was curious that TikTok has been showing me trading content more frequently lately. Like it has figured out that I am a trading content creator, but I think it's still confused because it sees that I skip over almost all trading content, right? So most of it is junk. Most of it is junk. Well, should be checking around here now. It's the top of the hour. Trump sees choking off Venezuela's oil revenue as the quickest path to regime change. With Maduro backed into a corner, things could still escalate. Andre, good morning. You know, the Trump administration's entire approach to Venezuela right now feels very non-Trump to me. There's got to be some information in there that we don't have. Like, I do believe it to be the case that Russia and China basically told Venezuela to start causing problems. I don't think that they expected the U.S. to just be like, okay, we're just going to take Venezuela out. Like, or force regime change, I guess is what they're saying. But still, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's just not the track that Trump usually takes. Wait, what's this? Skynet has begun to call someone John Connor? What? UPS bets $120 million on a robot army to slash costs and crush delivery bottlenecks. UPS is preparing to step up its automation push as part of a broader effort to lift profitability, according to people familiar with the matter. The company is expected to invest about $120 million in roughly 400 truck unloading robots supplied by Pickle Robot Co., shedding more light on its previously announced $9 billion automation plan. The focus is on easing one of the logistic industry's most persistent bottlenecks, unloading trucks and shipping containers, a process that is still largely manual and labor-intensive across most warehouse networks. Okay, so the guy just had a really clever Reddit title. You know, that actually is a lot of jobs if UPS was able to completely automate that. But they're kind of jobs that nobody wants, so maybe it'll be okay. So I saw something the other day where a Luddite, like a self-proclaimed Luddite, was saying, I can't wait until we get back in power and we can regulate all of this AI nonsense. So basically, it was a radical leftist raging against AI and thinking that if the left gets put in power, that the left will regulate AI and stop it. Isn't that curious? That there are people out there that think that the left's issue is stopping AI and the right is advancing it. Kind of weird. I don't think that that's actually the case, but they're probably projecting. But that's what they thought. You seen the security plan? Well, I definitely saw their comments about how Europe is becoming weaker economically and that it's hurting the West's security and everything. I definitely saw that. I mean, it's kind of funny because, like, especially on Discord, like, you guys have been talking about it, like it's an undercurrent under everything, and yet I don't think Europe's going to change anything. I don't think Europe's going to change anything. Do you guys think that the Ukraine peace deal is going to happen? I'm still super skeptical, but a lot of this is coming out because of negotiations around that. You know, I don't recall seeing anything about the plan to support extreme right parties and everything. I am definitely seeing. I mean, when it was Trump's first term, what we saw was the rise of right-wing anti-globalist parties everywhere, right? Now what we're starting to see is something much more specific, which is just the rise, the rise against immigration policies, particularly immigration policies as it pertains to Muslim countries. That is ramping up so fast and hard now. It's crazy. It's kind of a little weird to me, in fact, because I'm watching the right just really foaming at the mouth about this now. And the rubes on Reddit, like, literally have no clue. Like Trump administration placed an outright ban on immigration from Palestine and a number of other countries, and I didn't see a peep about it on Reddit. What's with that? Nah. Am I the only one that finds that a little curious? But maybe they're staying quiet about it because they know that it's becoming a popular thing. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad thing, but it seems like something major has switched. Seems like something major has switched. We'll see where it leads. Was 90% of the crap you're seeing about the war? Well, I don't know if that was specifically about the war, but no, oh, I see. 90% of the crap you were seeing about the war was literally from sad little soldiers who had jobs to sit in computer rooms and sit on Reddit and TikTok. Remember the funny little Twitter X location thing where they... No, that's not what happened, actually, Paul. Although that one was interesting. Although, you know, I didn't see a follow-up to it. So, yeah, on X, they introduced location stuff so that you can see where influencers are from. And it turned out that there was a couple of people on Twitter that had relatively large followings that were not from where they claimed to be. And or turned out to, you know, like they were talking about US issues and turned out to be from Europe and things like that. And it was funny. It was. Now, the thing that was weird about that one was when that happened, like the guys on the Donald, they were showing all of these accounts that was really kind of like, this does appear to be, this could be foreign influence, you know, actively trying to disrupt American politics. Was, well, a lot of the ones that I saw. But the left at the same time said that they saw that it exposed all of these mega influencers, that they were actually Russian assets. Right? So like both the left and the right thought that this curious incident helped them, essentially. And then, yeah, there was all these people claiming that Elon Musk didn't like it, and so he turned it off. But that did not happen. That was a rumor that, as far as I can see, did not happen. And then, like, conversation about it just evaporated. So I never had a follow-up. Can you still see that stuff if you go on X? Let's just pull somebody randomly up here. Oh, why is it? I switched the tab and it wants to reload the whole thing. Okay, so we got Brannigan Barrett. Does it show us where he's from when we visit his profile? It does. It says he's from London, England. Okay? Lovely. So it's still on. It is still on. On that note, though, Elon Musk is getting involved again. They convinced him to come to that dinner, and now after that dinner, he's been doing some spending on local political races and things like that. So it seems like they've got him back on board again. I don't know. Which is to say, I think that some of the like gamesmanship of social media manipulation has kind of pulled back a little bit and is maybe about to accelerate on both sides. On both sides. Man, I feel like something is poking me in my shirt. And I go back and I feel it and I don't feel anything, so I don't know what it could possibly be. Oh well. Probably just gonna drive me crazy all day, and then I'm thinking about it, it'll cause a rash. And then So, I don't know. You guys got any more politics stuff, or should I go back into researching about order flow studies? We got, oh, we're past, so I didn't hear anything from, Does look like my financial, sometimes my financial juice will disconnect on me. I don't know what's with that. That's baller. Lower half of the economic distribution is having trouble. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely seeing a thing where it kind of feels to me like there's been a lot of money thrown around in the economy. Like, you know, that we've printed some money and whatnot, but that it's not paying out yet. Like, our investments are not paying out. Stock prices are going up because they're putting all the money in the stock prices. But, like, where is... I guess what I would like to see, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. What I would like to see is, like, some line showing an acceleration in earnings or something like that, you know? Thinking about building a PC. Okay. Would the best advice be to buy the nicest CPU and storage money can buy, affordable GPU, and upgrade as high as I can when money says yes? And upgrade the GPU specifically as high as I can afterwards. So, we're in a curious place in computer hardware for sure. So the big one is the memory. The memory is getting tight. Obviously it depends on what you're doing. I think for most day trading, like, you really don't need a fancy CPU anymore for day trading. Pretty much almost as long as you're not getting like the low rung CPU in any generation. Beyond that, any CPU will do. So if you're just looking to upgrade your desktop PC and you're primarily trading on it, you can just go with the like middle of the line hardware. But memory is expensive, and that automatically adds a few $100s to it. Okay. GPUs are still very expensive too. So if you're just trading, I wouldn't recommend really splurging on a super expensive video card. You can on a video card, you can get the 50 series. You know, like they have, like, what are we at? A 40. So you can get a 4050 instead of a 4060. A little bit cheaper. Helps you a little bit there. I even think we're getting to a spot where you can buy a pre-built mini PC that would be suitable for day trading. That's another thing. So you might pay a little bit more than if you built it yourself, but it'd be really small. So that's kind of cool. But I'm worried that the issues we have with the computer hardware prices are only going to get worse over the next year. So we'll see. What is Elon Musk going on about Mars? Nah, it doesn't look like there's anything actually going on there. Yeah, computer will mostly be what you'd think I'd mostly use it for, then some gaming on the side. Well, because if you're going to do any gaming, then it makes sense to upgrade to the 4060, right? It's really you know what? I kind of don't like the direction that technology has gone. At its heart, I like desktop PCs. And I want to sit at my desk, you know? And the average person has moved to doing everything with their phone. Is really one of the really crazy things to me is they assume, well, because these kids, they've grown up with technology, they've grown up with phones, that they are technology literate. They are natives. They're technology natives. No. Maybe you're technology native. That does not mean that you are computer literate. Okay? If you are not spending every day on a laptop or a desktop with Windows, Linux, or Mac OS, you are not computer literate. And I'm seeing these people that, like, they graduate from school and then they start working at a job and they don't know how to use the desktop computer. That's crazy to me. Can't believe that. And the result has been that in many respects, that space has been underserved. You know? Like, just desktop GUIs. We complain about Windows. You know, Windows, they haven't really done very well with the last version of Windows. The UI isn't very good. They're not innovating on the UI or anything like that. But you know what? Mac OS isn't either. Mac OS has some interesting things going on, but I kind of feel like it's like the base Mac OS that you get is basically unusable to me. You add some stuff and then I think that it becomes a little bit more practical. But and then Linux, you know, those guys just they never understand what makes good UI. I helped a Zoomer fix his computer last year. He managed to build it himself, but he was completely computer illiterate. Yeah. It just kind of, because I like desktop computers and I do really feel like that the space is stagnating. Yeah. So the game that I play, Unreal Tournament, Epic gave the developers of there's a set of community developers named Old Unreal, and they fixed up the original version of Unreal Tournament and like made it compatible for modern PCs. And now they're going to be doing it for the game that I really liked, which was Unreal Tournament 2004. So like that's going to happen, and I can start playing it again, I guess. And I feel like I've just become a boomer. Like, I mean, I'm a millennial, but like I'm starting to fit this script right. So I'm just going to play my old boomer shooter and like all of these things that, you know, sitting on my desktop playing a boomer shooter, and basically I am reverting back to the things that I did when I was 19. And I say it's not because I don't follow or like new things. Like I definitely do. I check out all of the new things. It's just in the one area where I'm like the most interested in, kind of stagnated. Like stuff that came after that wasn't as good. We kind of talked about it before, similar to tablets. I think manufacturers are only putting out one thing, the smallest, thinnest thing they can make, never big and strong or different, etc. All of tech is following the gray concrete walls of home, where all homes end up looking the same. Basic Solus looks, well, with Tech 2. And what's Mr. Westphal? By the way, that's a new name, so welcome to the stream. The new generations are like, what's a desktop PC? It's becoming like rotary landline phones. It really is. Like, I really think there's a real problem because phones are not very ergonomic, okay? It is not good for you to sit like this with your hand up and your head down looking at a tiny little screen all day. It's not. If you're going to be spending a lot of time on it, you should be sitting at a chair at a desktop. Us millennials, like, all our necks are going to be shot. You another 20 years, it's all going to be neck problems because we stared down at our phones too much. But on the, like, we're following the gray concrete walls of homes sort of a thing, it is kind of weird how the tech industry, like, all follow each other, and they'll all follow each other into trends that sometimes don't make any rhyme or reason to me. Like this obsession with getting the thinnest phone. Like, it was a big thing at first, but, like, they got it to a certain size where I'm really like, what is the advantage of having it so thin? I really don't understand why you want me to upgrade my 5-year-old phone. Like, there's nothing better about this. What have they really done to make it different? They haven't. But part of that is because the use case on the phone has become so narrow, right? Like, most people, they watch TikTok and YouTube on it, they browse Facebook on it, and maybe they browse some websites on it. And that's all the phone needs to do. How do you improve that? I really don't see how you do, like, because those are not use cases that really benefit from having a lot more power, right? So I really think that the only thing you can do there is improve the form factor, which is why, like, the whole glasses thing actually is a little interesting to me. But the glasses just look so stupid, I don't think I can do it. The iPhone should have a robust docking station technology. Okay, so actually, by default, the docking technology on some of these phones is actually way more extensive than you might realize. There are some phones that, with the right hardware, you plug it into a screen and it is literally a desktop PC. Yeah. I don't think that anybody uses it that way, but you can do that. You can do that. And you know, like, more broadly, I think another thing that, like, I think the thing that's really, like, killing desktop PCs is that businesses have gone almost exclusively to issuing laptops. That's a big factor. And now that the operating systems are starting to work with the ARM architecture instead of Intel CPUs, because those are cheaper to make and everything. Like, the end is nigh on that one, and at that point, I do kind of wonder if it is just PC gaming keeping desktops afloat at that point. When I was younger, me and many people would say big purchases must be done on the PC, safely feeling, and now I will sooner get off my PC nearly to buy it on my phone instead. Yeah, depending on the interface. It's true. I don't know. So here's a question I have. Not that I'm on the like intergenerational hate bandwagon or anything, but it just really feels to me like boomers did not do a good job with their stewardship. Am I the only one that feels that way? And it's not just like this whole thing that like the West is in decline and all of that sort of stuff that we were talking about. But it also feels to me like that boomers are way more socially inept than we realized. And that boomers just didn't really know or understand how to teach other people and pass things on. It was like their dad would teach them things, and their dad would just do it all in front of them and not give them a chance to do it. And so then they never learned how to. So there are some companies out there, like this is one of the things that I really think kind of like was primarily responsible for Goldman Sachs' past success, is they understand mentorship. And they really are good at teaching people to do that, and the seniors to mentor the juniors and walk them through things, and slowly giving them more and more complex tasks and easing them into things and building their careers, right? But outside of those companies that are really good at it, like it hasn't really happened. The boomers been really terrible at some of those things. And then what I think is happening is that all of these strategic decisions about the technology are being made still by boomers, by people that don't really understand what's going on. Sorry if anyone here is a boomer, literally one of the worst generations of the worst people. You can ask anyone in the service industry for proof. Ugh. It is. But you know what? I'm really concerned for Gen Z. And not just like it really seems to me like Gen Z has some problems. Like you heard this whole thing about the Gen Z stare, and some of them think, oh, I'm just staring at you to show you that you're so stupid. But no, a lot of people are saying that like the Gen Z people just don't know how to act and they just go completely blank. Right? But I'm also concerned that when my generation starts dying out, that population decline will be so abrupt that everybody after that will have a really hard time. I can change a tire, drive a manual transmission, and I know, right? How are people going to really learn how to code if they do everything with agentic AI? Well, as it is right now, I think if you're really, really putting effort into it and you're really, really trying to code with AI, that you end up learning more from the agentic coding than anything else. Of course, there can be some naive people that really try to vibe code it and just try to get it to do something without ever looking at the code or understanding it. But it's the LLMs, the things that AI is good at is so fascinating to me. I think that it often defies a lot of the conventional wisdom about it. There are some things that they're really, really good at. Large language models are really good at summarizing things. So you can have it summarize code, and it does a really good job of explaining what that code is doing. I don't have to, what does this do? And ask somebody else anymore. I might say, so is it doing this? Am I picking up on the big thing that this is doing, or is there another component to it that we missed? Right? I'll ask that. But you usually don't have to have them explain code to me because the large language models do such a good job at it. This thing I was talking about earlier about order flow. Like, is there empirical research supporting the use of artificial? Yes, there absolutely is. There absolutely is. And if you tell an LLM, find me empirical research about X thing, don't hallucinate, it will give you really good results. It is really good at searching for information. You feel like, there's got to be more about this. And I don't know what that, like, if largely, it took me a long time to find this research about order flow and understanding the markets. It took us years. Like, I don't think I really understood it when we started the stream, right? I only kind of happened across it because of some of you guys. But it would have been a different story if large language models were around when I worked at the bank. I would have, the large language models would have started explaining to me why those things are significant. They're really good at that sort of stuff. But the way that some people use it, you do kind of wonder, like, how are they going to build skills if they don't? And again, boomers don't seem to understand mentorship. You know what I have a hard time with? Because if I'm mentoring somebody, I know what they need to know. I know how to, the ways of explaining things and etc. that's really going to get the concepts to click for you and put things together. I know the kind of tasks that you need to do to really develop the skills, and I can walk you through it because I've done it all. But I don't know how to get the person that you're mentoring to actually pay attention. It's like I feel like we have all these. I think that a lot of millennials feel like that. It's like I know lots of things now for you that I can help you with, and nobody's listening. And then you go on TikTok and you see all of these stupid kids giving life advice from influencers that are completely disconnected from reality. Oh my gosh. It's really insane to me how disconnected from reality influencers become. Especially these guys like, I hate to pick on him more just because I feel like he already gets too much attention, but Hassan is a prime example of this. He's never held a real job. He started streaming while he was still in school, so his whole life has just been streaming. And you end up with a person that is extremely disconnected from reality. And all of the really big streamers, they almost all seem completely disconnected from reality. And then they're running around telling people how to live. It's super crazy to me. Show me somebody that's been through it all, and then in the very end came up on top. That's who I want to talk to. That's who I want to listen to. The homeless in the future are going to be really good at asking for handouts since they do it online, and maybe they'll give us a little... Oh gosh, Uzi. I can totally picture that in the neo-feudal future, near future, where AI is taking all of the jobs and we're all just peasants, and a large portion of people are begging, and you'll have people begging on the street, and how are they going to do it? They'll do TikTok dances. Well, I can't do it on TikTok anymore. But like at the same time, it kind of makes you think, well, what's the difference between going out on the street and playing an instrument or doing a dance for people and hoping people will put money in your hat and hosting a TikTok and ending up making money that way. Kind of really makes you question the system we're building here, isn't it? Hassan's uncle was an early adopter of internet revenue. I think he just followed on. Yeah, that was part of it. There's this thing going back and forth with Hassan where he tries to make it seem like he's struggled and that he's been poor. And from everything that I've seen, he is like Nepo baby to the max. Exactly. Thank you. That's how I've looked at it for a while. At least certain people and creators for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I kind of struggle with it because you know what? Like, if you want good content, pay for the content. Please pay for the content. I really feel I don't talk about this too often because I know that if I think about it too much, it would just completely consume me. Okay. In the old media days, you would become a personality. You'd get hired by the news station or whatever else, and you'd go into that industry, and then they're making money from the advertisements, and you'd get paid, and you'd make a salary, right? Especially the talent, these people that are, the top guy on the news program or whatever, like they have a recognizable name, people like them, they make money, right? And so when we moved over into the internet age where everything is decentralized, what did they do? They used the power of the platform to monopolize the pay so that the online platform basically makes everything, and all of the people making the actual content get jack squat. And it's only a super teeny tiny percentage of the influencers out there that actually make real money from it. And in most cases, they're not really actually making that much money from the platform. They're making money from the endorsements and their own business that they're running on the side from it. With the one exception being large YouTube channels. And I think it's kind of messed up. We are basically, content creators are an exploited worker. And what should be a real career path for a lot of people has basically turned into online begging. During this period, it was basically only 2 weeks ago. That's kind of how I felt. It was like, yeah, I have good stuff. I have good content that's worth watching. I have good indicators that are worth buying if you're using NinjaTrader. But I feel like I'm practically begging people to take a look at it. How do you get people to pay attention? And you have to do that because the way that the attention economy has basically gone has turned into, if you're not involving yourself in super mega drama, nobody's interested. It's very disheartening to watch. Because going back to the desktop thing, that's what I like. To me, most people, it's like they've kind of got their hobby and then they've got their work, right? You do the work and you hate work, but you got to do it to make money. And then you get your hobby and that's where you do the fun thing. For me, it's like the exact opposite. I only ever wanted to just do deep technical stuff with computers. That's what I was most interested in. I guess if there was something that I could do for a living that would be fun, it would be to just play video games, but that boat never really took off, right? The competitive gaming scene has all sorts of problems. I digress. So I always wanted, so what I do for a living, that is me just playing. Like in my mind, that is playing. And when I come home and I'm doing the stream, or especially when I'm working on my platform, that's the real work, you know? So I was always excited when I saw, okay, social media, I love posting on forums. I loved all of this stuff. It's going to be super cool when everybody gets on board and to see where this goes and to see where YouTube goes. And now we've seen where it goes, and I really hate it. I really hate what it's turned into. I kind of got bored of gaming. Even when I want to play a game, I am playing for half an hour and then I'm done for most of the time. I don't think I realized how much the how do I want to describe this? I guess the desire for social praise or something like that, or for status, would play into me playing games. Like I was playing a game because I wanted to be one of the best. I wanted to accomplish great things in that game. And you know, so there, like a Planet Side was a good example where within that structure, you know, you could become a renowned person on that server. You could create these large clans and stuff like that, by what they call them, outfits. And that was driving a lot of me wanting to play it. Or when they started to introduce, like in Overwatch, they had a competitive ladder, and so you wanted to climb the ladder and be in the top league in the ladder, or things like that. And when you kind of start to I mean, of course you always know this, but there's chemicals driving you. So the chemicals still drive you to pursue the goals or whatever. And once the mind is kind of burnt out on that and has kind of realized, actually, you know what? None of this matters. You put everything into it and you'll have fun, but like nothing significant is going to come from it. It's not it's just a cheap replacement for trying to achieve things in real life, right? The desire to play games definitely declined, and or the type of games that I wanted to play changed. Like now, it has to be a game that I can put down at a moment's notice and, you know, maybe play it once a week, or not play it for months and come back to and pick up where it was. Which means like Minecraft, Stardew Valley, maybe Tetris. Oh yes, I swear it's part of the tism, always looking for a great purpose and outcome. Yeah, it is. It can be depressing. No, I will be taking the next 2 weeks off. So starting Monday, I will not be streaming. I'll still be at my desk. You'll still be able to catch me from Discord. But I will be waking up and working on my platform, I think. That or sleeping in. Maybe some of these days I will just sleep in. Yeah, always looking for purpose and outcome. Well, I mean, doesn't everybody do that? But it's different for autism. It's different for people with ADHD. They need to come up with a name for ADHD that ends in tism. So that that would make more sense. Linguistically speaking. Yeah. And I've kind of gotten to this place where, okay, like that's definitely one of the things that drove the YouTube channel, right? Was like, it started out as just like, this is going to be a journal. It's, streaming is interesting to me, all of that sort of thing. And it just kind of happened to take off. And so then I said, okay, well, I can try grinding on this. Let's try and make better and better YouTube videos, get better and better at that, and build the channel up and everything. Right? But then it's like the same thing, kind of. Like in games, you grind and eventually you realize, oh, but it is just a game. Really, the only thing that matters is how much I enjoy playing the game and the people that I'm playing it with. On the YouTube, it's like you're going to grind, and guess what? A really good chance that nothing comes of it, and all of that effort's going to be wasted because it only happens to a few people, and it's maybe a little bit random as to who it happens to, and or that some of the people that's happening to, not necessarily because they're good and hardworking people or they have a lot to share with the world, but because they're doing the thing that it grabs people's attention the most, even though it's not good for them. And then it's like, what can I pour myself into then? Well, for me now, it's the platform, right? If I come to that with the platform, like I've got the platform, it's all working, and then nobody's interested in it, right? We've got a full thing. I got it all set up. It's perfect. It's exactly what I envisioned. And then I'm gonna sell it for $1,000, and none of you buy it. Then I don't know what I do with my life. This is just then I've truly exhausted every avenue to try and derive dopamine from the pleasing of other people. The great purpose and outcome thing sucks. It makes small things hard to do because there isn't a point. Maybe I struggle at finding a point in things sometimes. Well, I know I do, lol. But hey, on a positive note, though, those are the same reasons why I'm not addicted to TikTok, etc. Well, that's kind of curious. Yeah, one of the things is that, especially if you have ADHD, people with ADHD, they struggle with norepinephrine and dopamine. So dopamine is kind of motivation, and norepinephrine is kind of more focus, right? Norepinephrine is like what really locks you in. And part of that can be like if you're in a dangerous situation. The adrenaline, norepinephrine is a precursor to adrenaline, right? But it also comes from social. So like being engaged in a social situation and then receiving social praise, that increases the norepinephrine. And so that kind of causes you to pursue it, right? And that results in people with ADHD and autism pursuing more kinds of behaviors than other people. For instance, people with ADHD are more likely to participate in risk-seeking behaviors or adrenaline junkies, extreme sports, for instance, right? But there's a third one, which is the serotonin. And the serotonin is like when you do something that you're doing all the time, you get serotonin, okay? And there's kind of interesting things because the serotonin increases as you get older, right? You figure out what works for you, and then you want to do more and more of that thing, and that's why older people are less interested in new stuff and they go back to what they used to do. I see that in myself. I am a type where I'm going to seek the novelty more than other people. I definitely do that, but just the past 2 years, like, there's not much novelty out there right now, so it kind of sucks. So as a person with ADHD, you can always go back to the serotonin. You can always use that chemical as something to kind of help you a little bit and to use it as a base. But the downside of it is you don't really get that satisfaction from that, right? So going back and doing that same thing that you've always done, this just kind of makes you feel like, what's the point, right? It's the existential dread of it is what it starts to turn into. It's the existential dread of it. Although for me, I don't think it's the existential dread. I think I have a very clear idea of who I am and what I want to do, both because, from religion and strong community living in Utah. So a lot of those problems that people in society more generally have are not as much of a problem for me. It's kind of more like, I think I know what my purpose is or what it is that I want to accomplish, but I don't feel like I'm going to accomplish it. I feel like I've already kind of done everything I can on that side, But we'll see. We'll see. We're starting, we just finished an era. We just finished an era, and 2026 is the start of a new era. And we'll see where it goes. I'm still very interested in doing more entrepreneurial things. I don't really know if I can turn my trading platform into a real business yet. I think it require a lot of development and a couple of other things to happen. Probably would need to meet some business partners locally here in Utah to make that happen. But in the course of trying to network and do all of those things, I might come across other entrepreneurial ventures that are more interesting. Who knows? And hoping that when we, feel comfortable taking some risk again, that we can have some real success with that too. So I think there's a lot to look forward to, right? There's a lot to look forward to. It's just was not any of the things that I thought that I was going to be looking forward to in 2026, right? So it's not so much, oh, the world sucks, as much as it is, the world did not meet any of my expectations at all, did it? And what does that really mean? Setting up those expectations works against you. As soon as you expect something for society, and then society will always disappoint you. So you have to just be open to what comes. Because the greatest things always happen to be the things you weren't expecting. I'm a bad influence. I think you should do an easy grab nonsense thing, whatever it may be, and then build more good and make it like ad-filled child game. Hey, I could do that. If I had a really, really good idea for a game and go and put it, I wouldn't make it the most terrible. Some of these platforms are such a money grab, it's ridiculous. But whatever would make the most money, yeah, 100%. I don't know. The thing is I don't feel that you have to give up your morals or do things that are harmful to other people to make the most money. It just seems like you will focus on people that are doing that. But the most money is in doing the right thing. It really is. Okay. Thank you for today. Yeah, thank you for joining West Village. I hope you have a good day. Hopefully I'll make a good TikTok tonight about order flow. But it's time for me to get going, so I will see you guys tomorrow, Thursday. Man, this week's going by a lot faster. But tomorrow, CPI. So see you then. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.